So I ordered my first ever tablet a little over 9 years ago. It stopped working pretty soon after the screen broke on it, and I got a replacement exactly 9 years ago today. So I want to talk a little bit about that, how it's kind of still with me, I have it right here, and what my impressions are of it. Now I should say that I've been an iPad user for the better part of the last decade, but my first ever tablet was a Kindle Fire, the original Kindle Fire. This thing was bananas at the time, and I'm going to explain a little bit why it was bananas, and also how this thing has kind of evolved to be what it is today. Now, the first thing here is that this was the first affordable tablet. At the time, the iPad 2 was out, and it cost $599 for the base model at 16 gigabytes, which is just bananas when you think about an iPad today. By contrast, this Kindle Fire was $199 and had 8 gigs of internal storage. So 9 years later, how does this thing measure up today? To begin with, the screen really isn't all that great. It's not super high res, it's not super amazing in any sense, but it gets the job done for most needs. If you're doing basic video watching and reading, which is really what this thing was for, it's perfect. The bezels are massive. There's no getting around this. It does make it easier to hold, unlike some tablets today that don't have very big bezels. This one had huge ones, which meant the screen size was pretty small, but again, it was easy to hold and read and flip and do whatever you needed to do with it. On the bottom of the device, you have a USB port that you can put micro B into to power it. You also have an audio jack, so you can have your headphones in there. And finally, you have the only button on the device, a power button or a wake button. Around the top, you can find dual firing speakers, and that's about it. The thing is shockingly thin for being 9 years old. It's not much thicker than my current iPad Pro, which is pretty impressive. But the specs leave a lot to be desired when you actually get into this thing. One other thing about the size of this is it's pocketable. This thing fits in my jeans pocket, both front and back, without any issue, which is kind of incredible. Now, the Kindle Fire was kind of the first kind of device that took the Android operating system and forked it, and Amazon used their own version of it that locked you into Amazon's App Store without doing a couple of background things, and really made you locked into the Amazon system, which was the whole point of the device. On the home screen at the top, you have a search bar, followed by a couple of quick links to be able to get to things. And underneath that, you have a carousel that you can scroll through and see any apps, books, whatever you had recently opened, it will show there. And below that, you have a shelf, which is kind of like an app pinning area, if you will. You can see that the scrolling is not all that smooth. It's a little jittery from time to time. But again, for a 9-year-old tech, it's not bad. One of the biggest complaints on this thing at the time was that it stopped you from being able to put free ebooks on it. You had to be able to transfer a PDF to it, and it was just a mess. Kindles before this allowed you to put the EPUB format right on a device, and you could read things for free. Amazon stopped that with this device. Sadly, there wasn't really a whole lot of native support for apps. So like Gmail, YouTube, most things didn't have a native app built into them at the time. Luckily, there were a lot of third-party ones that tapped into those things. But again, it would have been really awesome to have first-party support for all these apps. And as of today, it's a 9-year-old device. There's not a lot of app support anymore. If you go into the store and look and try to find certain apps, you'll get error messages that pop up because they're just not made or supported anymore for this device. The good thing is that all of the Amazon apps still work and work well. They're slow because it's a slow processor inside, but the device itself does work, and you can really easily browse any of Amazon's services and access them with a click. Loading times on things are slow, but it does work. Now, you'll notice I didn't say camera when I said all the specs of this thing. It doesn't come with a camera at all. Amazon did offer unlimited photo storage that you can access on the cloud here through the device that they sort of kind of maybe offer today. But with no way to take pictures, it was kind of a weird idea. But it did kind of usher in the idea that cloud storage is where we're going to be putting photographs and other things. One of the big innovations and successes or failures, depending on your viewpoint of this, is the Silk browser. So basically, what Amazon did was they built their own web browser to go on its device. The idea was that when you request a website, it will offload some of that work onto a cloud service, and then it will serve you the pages faster than what you could do on the device, because it's not super powerful really inside of here. The problem was that this worked sometimes. For instance, if I go to weather.gov, which is where I get all of my weather sources, it takes forever to load things. It doesn't work all that well. And in some cases, things just flat out don't work at all. It was a cool idea, and I think there is some merit to the idea behind it, but it never really fully panned out as far as I'm concerned, and really, especially on this device, never really worked the way it was promised. Now, back 9 years ago when I got this thing, I recommended it to everybody. You could not find a tablet cheaper than this that was of high quality and just worked the way that you expected it to. $200 is a lot for this today, but at the time, a comparable tablet was really in the $500, $600, $700 range. So this was really groundbreaking at the time, and I absolutely loved it then, and I still kind of have a love for it now. The fact that this thing still functions today and does basically everything that I would want it to do as far as accessing Amazon services is awesome. I love being able to sit in bed, read a book, and play music all at the same time and not have this thing skip a beat. It doesn't sound like a lot, and it's really not a lot of work, but you have to remember 9 years ago, things were very different, and the ability for pocket devices like this to do stuff like that was still kind of coming along. As I said, I was a giant fan of this thing when it came out. It was great in every sense of the word. And 9 years later, I still find myself really liking it. Even though I really haven't used it all that much, I charge it maybe once every few months just to pick it up and make sure it still works. But the fact that it does still work and it's held up and that it's usable, it's really just a testament to how good the hardware and software on this thing were, even if it's not fully supported anymore. Now, the prices and capabilities of Kindle Fires have changed a lot over time. Most of them come with cameras now. You can get different sizes. There's a lot of different options that this did not have. But this really opened the way for people to have affordable tablets in a way that just wasn't available anywhere else. And I think that's its kind of testimony and standing legacy, that this opened up the tablet market to almost everybody. And I think that's pretty cool. So let me know if you had a tablet like this or something comparable, and we'll talk. But I hope you guys enjoyed this and have a great rest of your day.